This is 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com. Welcome to the Triple Option. Here's your host, Paul Catalina.
Alongside my good friend Chris Allman, the Monday Maniac.
I always want to be doing something when we come on the air, like the local newsman.
Yeah, well, you
like
can
finishing up my last bit of commentary on the economy.
Oh, hello. Good evening, Wichita, Kansas. I'm Chris Allman. Alongside Grace Sparks.
Dude, we watched some of Anchorman over the Thanksgiving break. Still holds up.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just iconic.
Here's the deal. I'll tell you, Anchorman 2, not as good.
No.
But in the advent of the more cable news gets out of control, watch it and you'll be like, oh no, it's funnier now. Like the more times that for more on the crisis in the Middle East, we go to Ted Nugent. And you're like, what? Why are you?
More on the RNC. Here's Scott Baio.
Yeah, I get that everybody's opinions are valid, but
they're not. They're not.
Yeah,
they're not.
Everybody deserves to say their piece, but if you're basing your life on anything like a famous person on either side of the aisle says,
I know. Kill me.
More of the housing crisis, we go to Beyonce. She's her only housing crisis is that the east wing of her mansion has been, it's taken 2 weeks longer than they said.
Her housing crisis is that her house is in 4 different zip codes. It's that big.
Yeah. She can get mail at all 4 of them.
She's only got a homestead exemption on half her house.
Yeah. No, there's
a little property tax humor to get the show started.
Yeah.
Boy, we're just crushing it so far.
Interest rates skyrocketing out of control. Here to talk about it's Flava Flav.
Now that I'd watch.
Yeah, I would. He might nail it. He might just nail it and be like, dude.
He's talking about 10-year treasuries and yields, and you're like,
wow. Okay, college football wise, just a tease. Tons of coaching news.
Yeah.
Lots of crazy games. That end of the Alabama game.
Yeah.
If you were a person, and Garrett and I were here together when that happened.
Lucky.
If you're a person who was like, oh, well, this is finally Alabama's going to get their comeuppance for kind of playing fast and loose with everybody this year. No, they're not.
No, they're not.
No, they're not. And they had 2 of the dumbest plays in a row. And any other team in the world makes those 2 plays, including Georgia.
Yep.
Including Georgia. And that's it. Carson Beck, who's been playing better and better and better throughout the season, and next year is probably going to be the number 1 quarterback. He's getting that good. He would not have made that throw. Only Jalen Milroe could make that throw. And only Auburn can lose to their rival in that fashion. Because if you remember, just a year ago, they had Alabama dead to rights as well. Mm-hmm. Alabama played their worst game in probably 10 years against Auburn in the Iron Bowl a year ago. And then I can't remember the running back from Auburn, but at the end of the game, just ran out of bounds, trying to run the clock out, just ran out of bounds. And, left Alabama literally exactly enough time that they needed to go win the game.
Precisely the amount of time.
Yeah.
Which fan base is suffering more as we turn the calendar to December? Is it Auburn or is it Ohio State?
I think it's Ohio State just because they had real.
There was a lot more on the line.
A lot more on the line. Auburn, it's first year of a new coach. Auburn has long-suffering little brother syndrome.
Yeah, but 2 years in a row of beating your rival. The old cliche is you could lose them all, but beat your rival.
Yeah.
And 2 years in a row to lose like that. I thought my feed on my television froze. Jalen Milroe stood back there for so long. I thought the feed on my TV was broken.
Well, and they dropped 8 guys. And then he found one, he somehow got a one-on-one matchup. I don't know. I don't know how it happened. It's ridiculous.
A little bit of a shove off.
Yeah, a little bit. I went through a varying range of emotions myself on Saturday night. In fact, we didn't start the Baylor postgame show until Florida and Florida State ended because I was not.
He had to be professional.
I had to be professional. And there was going to be a moment if I just started it when we normally start the Baylor postgame show, which is pretty much right after the game's over. I was going to like jump out of my chair and say really, really, really callous and rude, vile things to the Florida Gators.
So I have a question. Who has jurisdiction over YouTube? Does the FCC have a role in this? Like, could there be a Florida State, Florida watch along with Paul that was unfiltered?
Yes.
Or would it need,
as long as,
would you have to be 18
as long
years
as
old?
No, because YouTube is, you just have to like.
So you could be 10 years old and just watch Paul.
You could watch me on YouTube and do the watch along, which for the first half of the game was a lot of angry silence. And resigned to the Jordan Travis is gone and so are my hopes and dreams thing. And then they scored and I was like, I got fired up again. So had they not scored before halftime, I would have been in a bad way.
I think the funniest thing was watching your reaction when Rodemaker got just completely blown up on the targeting call. And then when you knew Florida State was going to win, we started getting the walk-in tomahawk chop going in here. It was glorious.
Yeah, you probably should have rolled on it.
Have you watched a Florida State, Florida, or a big Florida State game with Paul before?
He's got two.
He's got two
Miami.
under my belt this season, man.
Yeah,
okay.
He's got two. The end of the Miami game and the Florida game. He got watched with me.
So this one, obviously, was it a little more animated?
It was pretty good. I'm not going to lie. It was pretty entertaining.
How long did it take you to revert back to being a professional and not
it didn't really happen. We had a lot to talk about. Look, because Dave Aranda's staying at Baylor.
Yes.
So we had a lot to talk about that. We did not know that at the time, although we kind of did. Like it was just leaning that way. Like there was nothing around it that would have suggested he was going to get fired.
Right.
So other than the 3-9 record and the horrible attendance and all those other things, but as far as the way that these things normally go, it wasn't going that way. So, and, we'll talk about all that in a little bit, but yeah, there's big other coaching news in the hiring and firing world. Look,
I would like to, when we get into it, I would like to ask some questions about the Mike Elko hire. I'd like to ask some questions of you, a person more in the know than me. So I have questions.
Yeah. But we'll just go through some of the things that have happened. Mike Elko at Texas A&M, that's a done deal.
Okay.
Jonathan Smith at Michigan State, that was done on Saturday.
Okay.
Jeff Lebby, former Baylor offensive coordinator under Art Briles and Art Briles' son-in-law, is the new head coach at Mississippi State. Mm-hmm. And if you had asked me when he was here if I thought he was going to be a head coach one day, I probably would have told you no. But it's trended differently in the later years. So.
Why would you have said no? Other than the fact that when he was here, what was he, 30?
Yeah, 32? He was young, but he never had that vibe to me. Okay. Like there's some guys you talk to and you're like, oh, this guy, like when he's 32 years old, you're like, oh, when he's 36, he's going to be the a hot coach that's, people are talking about. You can just tell, and, I'm trying to think of a good example of that.
But he's not one.
Kenny Dillingham. Like you like Kenny Dillingham at Arizona State. Like you just know, like that guy's a head coach.
Okay.
Like he drips head coach.
Yeah.
Dan, you know what? When Dan Lanning, and I knew this anyway, but when Dan Lanning was the DC at Georgia, we were at the Sugar Bowl covering him, and like he was talking, we were at the press conference, and I was like, dude, this guy.
He had a gravitas about him.
Yeah. This guy. Yeah. This guy's about to be a guy. And
but you feel like with Lebby, it's trended.
I just never, again, that doesn't mean that they're not. Like, I probably, had I covered Dave Aranda early in his career, would have said the exact same thing.
Yeah.
And he is now a head coach. So, and Lebby's different. He did some things here that, were kind of, things that future head coaches don't do. Like, he was at, there's a whole big controversy. He got in trouble just to kind of, go back and put it to today. Sign stealing is the big controversy around Michigan now.
Sure, yeah.
Well, Jeff Lebby is leaving his alma mater, Oklahoma, to go to Mississippi State now. But when he was at Baylor, the staff at Tulsa were at Baylor the year before.
Yeah, Philip Montgomery.
So he went up to see Philip Montgomery and that staff on Baylor's bye week and stood on the sideline where he wasn't allowed to be, wearing a big yellow Baylor shirt. And his college roommate happened to be a coach on the Oklahoma staff and was like, Whoa. And they played him in 2 weeks. Like
Yeah.
it was like 2 weeks away. And he's like, what's going on here? And so he got in trouble. He got suspended for
Okay,
a
I
game or
vaguely remember this.
something. Yeah. So like
This was a decade ago,
yeah,
wasn't it? Yeah.
Those are things that you don't hear about Kirby Smart. Right? Like so
Yeah.
that's why I thought like, and we'll see. Like I can tell you he's got the coach speak thing down. The last time I talked to him was at the Sugar Bowl when Baylor beat Ole Miss, and I asked him a question that was like really valid in that like, hey, you've got a little like, I'm not shocking anybody here where the end of the tenure at Baylor wasn't great. Because of that, is there any extra sauce on this? And coach spoke that
Really?
into like,
Do you remember his answer?
look, there's not be any extra sauce in any game. They're all got sauce on them, all that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And like the coach speak, like if there were judges from the Coach Speak Hall of Fame, they would have been like
all tens.
like 10. Like he'd have been on the medal stand for that bowl season. Like, thank you. All right.
Bill Belichick gives him a 9.
Yeah. So, but like he would have had it. He would have nailed
Okay.
it. There would have been like other coaches like sitting in the little booth going, God, it was just good. It was just good.
So
what can you do?
So
Triple Lutz.
Is he just a little more? Is he just a little more? I guess polished gravitas. Is that the word? Like,
Yeah, he's gotten look, and people can get better at things.
Yeah.
And I'm curious to see how he does at Mississippi State. That is now one of the hardest jobs in the SEC because they're in that like now that, and this is not a knock on Mississippi State. They know who they are.
Yeah.
They're a really cool fan base, and Starkville, in spite of being like kind of a weird like city, even for a college town, like it's got a cool college vibe, right? They do a good job, like as far as fan base goes and all that. And they've kind of been through the ringer a little bit, and they had a coach that everybody loved, and Mike Leach, and like it was So it's been a little weird, but Mississippi State has now like. They don't have the resources that like an A&M does that's new in the SEC relatively, a decade that can maybe one day break into it. Like they're always going to be behind LSU and A&M and Alabama and Georgia and Florida and Tennessee and now Texas and Oklahoma. And so like that's the SEC is about to be very two-tiered, and it's going to be interesting to see where schools like Mississippi State fall in. Ole Miss and Mizzou can probably get into that top tier if they point in the right direction. But again, like Mississippi State and Vanderbilt and Kentucky and South Carolina are always going to kind of be not those other schools, right? So it's a tough job. Like,
yeah, but haven't they been second? I mean, this sounds like an insult. Hasn't it been two-tiered for the last 5 or 6 years anyway?
But like it's
just
about
Bama, Georgia, and everyone else.
It's just about to be worse, right?
Okay.
And so if you're if you were worried about like if you're Mississippi State. Like the Dak Prescott year where you finished third in the conference, that's a great year for you, where you're contending for the conference championship. That's not probably going to happen all that often in the new SEC because you've added 2 teams into it that
and the divisions are gone.
The divisions are gone, and they're better than you. Like they're historically better than you. So it's a hard job for Jeff Lebby. And I mean, I'm not saying I don't think he can do it. I just think that like that's a tough. Like Mississippi State's one of the tougher jobs because. The fans don't have the expectation they're going to compete for national titles, but they still want to be good, and they don't want to just be, you want to have good seasons. You want to win 8, 9, 10 games sometimes, and you don't want to always be like, all right, we better beat Ole Miss or we're not going to a bowl. Like, you don't want that.
Right.
And so that's where it makes it hard. So it's a tough job. But I would have told you I didn't think he was going to be a head coach. Okay. Some guys have the vibe of the like always the assistant coach, the Norm Chow vibe, where they're just like that's their thing. And I always thought he would be like an offensive coordinator, kind of a right hand man guy. But again, and I would have thought Kendall Browse would have gotten one before him. But that's how things go. And again, I'm not trying to besmirch the good name of Jeff Lebby or anything like that. I'm just my personal I was kind of surprised when. A couple years ago when his name started to pop into like the group of 5 jobs or hey, people need to look at Jeff Lebby. I was like, oh, okay. Like he just didn't have that, but every coach is different. Right.
Yeah.
So, and if you
Mike Leach probably never had the head coach vibe.
Yeah.
Mark Mangino probably never had the head coach vibe. Mm-hmm. All those guys that came off that Stoops staff.
Yeah.
Was anybody What's the general vibe around Oregon State? Are people upset about? Are they upset at Jonathan Smith for leaving? Obviously, they're disappointed they lost a really good coach. Or is it, hey man, we understand. Like, we're this floating program. We understand you going to take this really good Big Ten job. What's the vibe?
I think the smarter alumni like kind of knew it was coming. Yeah. And I think their only hope was like he'll stay here because he's an alum.
Yeah.
Like he'll stay here because he's an alum, but no alum, but they're like, no, do you want that job right now? Unless you've never had it, if you can have other options.
Yeah.
So would I rather go to have Big Ten money for sure and a school that desperately needs stability and is in a conference that's actually expanding and, guess what? I also know a lot about these new 4 teams that are coming in.
Yeah.
So I've got maybe a leg up on some of the things, especially recruiting in this area. Like Michigan State made a very if I had to give this grade, and I wouldn't give Michigan State good grades on anything regarding football because they've just made horrible decision after horrible decision. But this is an A++ hire for them. This dude. So. He knows what he's doing, and especially when you consider the fact that we're probably gonna have to change a bit of the way that we operate, considering that 4 teams are coming in, and one of them is Oregon. We can't hire Oregon's coach,
right?
But we can hire a guy who's right down the road and goes toe-to-toe with him. So, I think it was very smart and give him more resources than he'll have in the next couple of years at Oregon State and probably into the future for a long time at Oregon State. We just don't know not knowing the future there would make me very nervous.
Yeah.
Which is why, Jake Dykert for a job like Houston wouldn't surprise me at all. Even though he didn't have a great year, I don't think he'd be on the top of their list, but he's pretty well thought of in the industry.
Yeah.
But I think Jonathan Smith, it's a bummer for Oregon State. Everything that's happened at Oregon State.
Everything is a bummer for Oregon State.
But it was what do you expect? He's going to get this massive raise.
Yeah.
There's certainty around it. You got to think about you eventually. And fans can feel hurt because you feel like one of you left. But if you put yourself in that position of, I'm in demand, I love this place, but they can't match this.
Yeah.
And they can't offer any of the things that Michigan State can. I got to think about myself and my family. You just got to go.
Yeah.
It's not and again, it's not anything. Sometimes people take all this personally. Sometimes it's not personal. It's it's just how it has to be.
Sometimes I feel like college football fans do nothing
everything
but
personally.
take things personally.
Yeah.
I'm sure they're,
But it's not again, it wasn't, you did what you can.
Yeah.
I thought Dave Clawson, I was very happy with Dave Clawson at Wake last year when Sam Hartman left and was like, look, they offered him an NIL deal that we cannot match.
Yeah.
I cannot tell him to stay here and say no to that money.
Right.
Just going to have to go.
Yeah.
Am I angry about it? Sure. Does it suck? Yeah. But,
yeah.
Let's live in the real world.
Yeah. What's the pitch to make them stay?
Especially if Dave Clawson, who loves his job at Wake, but if, Miami opened up 2 years from now and offered him double his salary, he'd be like, what are home prices on Star Island?
Yeah.
I've heard Will Smith likes it down there.
Okay, can I ask my Aggie question now?
Sure,
Push
Mike
this
Elko.
to later. Okay. I don't follow the ebbs and flows of social media, which is largely where you're going to get fan response.
Yeah.
First question, was the Mark Stoops thing a real possibility? Did it almost happen?
Yeah, I think so.
Did they back off of it because there was blowback from, maybe not from fans on social media, but did influential donors and supporters push back?
No, I think he had already said no.
Okay.
Before that happened.
Okay.
So it wasn't long. The trains, somebody hit the switch tracks just in the amount of time to where it didn't hit. But yeah, there would have been some but I also think that Ross Bjork, had he already made the hire, there had been blowback and all that. But if the guy's already on the jet, what are you going to do? So, and Mark Stoops is not an exciting hire because he's been at Kentucky. And, people forget the last coach that A&M hired from Kentucky was Bear Bryant. But,
Jeez.
I know it was a long time ago, but still.
It worked out well that time.
And look, you know why he left Kentucky? Yeah, they gave him a lighter. They gave him a cigarette lighter. They gave Adolph Rupp a Cadillac, and they gave Bear Bryant a cigarette lighter. And he was like, "Well, I can light cigarettes in College Station, Texas." So
I did not know that.
Yeah, he got mad. He was the coach of Kentucky. They had their best year, and the best year ever. But the basketball team was the basketball team, and. Yeah, which is why I think if you're an A&M fan, you should love what's the movie about Texas Western?
Glory.
Yeah,
not
Road
Glory.
to Glory or something.
Glory Road.
Road to Glory Road.
Glory Road. You should love Glory Road because it puts Adolph Rupp in his place. but yeah, Bear Bryant, he decided to do that. So Mark Stoops has kind of a similar thing. You saw it happen last year when his basketball coach just went and said, "Look, we're a basketball school. Like, I know football's doing well. And it was 2 years ago, whenever it was. Football's doing well and all, but this is a basketball school." And then I think Bill Self handled it great. He's like, "We're an everything school. I don't care." Like, yeah. What are you doing?
Does it not seem like the worst job in the world sometimes is SID? Like the guy that has to field responses and clean that up.
Yeah.
You're like, what he meant was, no, that's what he said. I would not want that job.
Well, I would not also want to be the athletic director at Kentucky when you're like, "Hey, we're going to have the big fundraiser. Now I've got to sit the football coach and the basketball coach away from each other so that the fans aren't going like, look at him. Look how he's looking at him. Look at him." You can't do that. So, but the Mike Elko hire was, I think, what a lot of A&M fans wanted from the jump. And really with this roster, and Mike Elko is an excellent coach. If you watch Duke the last 2 years and the way that they prepare and play, look, they lost their quarterback this year and that changed their season. But Riley Leonard showed what you can do at Duke. And no offense to Riley Leonard, think he's going to be an NFL quarterback, as a matter of fact, with his skill set. But A&M's got better quarterback. Connor Wegman's probably a better overall prospect than Riley Leonard is.
I was honestly wondering because Max Johnson hit the portal. Does Riley Leonard come for 1 year and then kind of help with Connor Wigman?
It depends on how bad Connor Wigman's hurt, but I think Connor Wigman's your starter next year, and Jalen Henderson, their backup that they got from. I mean, he's availed himself very well in the 3 weeks that he's played. So Max Johnson just probably was not going to play over those two, and plus they've got Marcel Reed. They'll have another quarterback coming in. There's all these plus whatever's going to happen with Elko, but Elko I think can help retain that roster very well because he knows, especially on the defensive side of the ball, he recruited a lot of them, and so they'll know what their defense is going to be. So there's going to be some excitement there. Now, retaining, Evan Stewart didn't make the trip to LSU, so he might already be gone, but I do think that money talks, so Elko can talk, they can probably get him back, but there's they have potential to have a really good offense next year with better coaches and a situation akin to recently Gary Patterson and Sonny Dykes. Now, look, I know Sonny Dykes year 2 wasn't great, but with Gary Patterson's roster, was really good and got the most out of those guys. And a very similar thing is happening at A&M. Gary Patterson did not forget football. Jimbo Fisher has not forgotten football, but there are other things that have happened where Jimbo Fisher has been very cantankerous, like Gary Patterson was. Every time I hear people talk about Gary Patterson for head coaching job, I tell them, look, he's in his 60s, 1. 2, he got run out of a place that has a statue of him because his attitude is terrible.
Yeah.
So
that's hard to fix.
Yeah, you can't just he's not going to just walk into, take the Houston job or something to be like, "Hey guys."
Yeah. He's not going to become Mac Brown.
Here's the deal. I want, before we start every team meeting, group hug. And if anybody doesn't get him the group hug, you let us know, and we'll do another group hug to make sure that everything's good. He's not going to be that guy all of a sudden. He's not going to, all of a sudden you go to him and, "Coach, I'm having a hard time, and I'm just struggling with my place in this team." He's not going to say, "Your feelings are valid, and I see you as a human being." He's not going to do that all of a sudden.
Have you ever heard of a coach that coached that way? I feel like
yes,
with enough gravitas, I feel like if Scott Drew told us that's how he started practices, I'd be like, genius.
Yeah.
Because it's Scott Drew.
Yeah.
Because he's won a natty and his players love him.
Here's the cool thing about Scott Drew is he's like that most of the time.
Yeah.
But he knows exactly when to turn on the angry button.
Sure.
So he'll be like, "Okay, I'm angry at this.
Yeah.
I'm disappointed in this." And then it's "Oh, he's mad. I don't like that.
Yeah.
I don't like that." Then you're "I can't believe I did this to him."
Sure.
As opposed to somebody who's mad all the time, you're "Whatever."
Yeah. Oh, we've all played for people like that.
Yeah.
A guy that just yells all the
Yeah.
time. You're like, oh, you're yelling.
You're
again.
yelling. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, got
All
it.
right.
Yeah, sure.
Let's get to the end of the sentence. Like, yes, we'll do better. Blah 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 blah. You know, you get there, and then it's just noise, as opposed to where like if you save your angry button,
Sure.
like then you're like, oh wow.
Yeah. Yeah, and Coach Drew uses that wisely. He presses that button sparingly.
He also knows how to, like, some people don't know how to be angry.
Yeah.
They just like, they go from like, instead of like like the levels of angry, there's only the one. It's just normal, blind rage. Yeah. So I think, and that was where Jimbo Fisher was. Watch him talk to any quarterback he's ever had. After like, they throw an incomplete pass on a 3rd and 3.
Just furious.
Just furious. And you're like, well, you know, like what?
Oh, Jimbo.
I mean, come on. So it's just, Mike Elko is not like, he's not a pushover, but he's also not a rageaholic.
Yeah.
So I think it's a great hire for A&M. I think they need to make a hire. Like they've got to stop trying to win at the headlines.
Exactly. Yeah, they got to stop trying to win the news cycle when they make a hire. And it does feel like that. Is it done? Like it's official? Have they had it? They haven't.
Yeah, he's landed on the plane. The press conference is at 3:30.
Okay.
Or 3 o'clock.
They would do well by themselves for it to be understated.
Yeah.
I think he needs to, I mean, he's got a thin line he's got to walk because you want to create enthusiasm.
Yeah.
But you want to set proper expectations.
Yeah.
Right? I don't know how you do that. That's why I'm standing here and he's on a plane to go do a press conference.
Here's the deal. The press conference, the expectations he knows are contend for the playoff.
Beat Texas.
Beat Texas, contend for the playoff. When you beat Alabama, it shouldn't feel like, oh my God, what just happened? It should feel like, yes, we're as good as Alabama. We can beat them this year. That's the expectations because that's what they hired Jimbo Fisher to do.
Yeah.
And so if you set any expectations lower than what you did for Jimbo, you're telling your fan base who's pouring a lot of money into Texas A&M football, look, I know you guys want this, but we're never going to be able to give it to you. So Mike Elko, to me, is a guy who is at the point in his career where he could probably take that step. Organizationally, like watching how Duke does things to me is really, really fascinating. Like they were, and I'm an ACC fan, you know, so I've watched them for years. Like they'll have a good coach for a little while, but like because they have kind of a kitschy offense and like, oh, that's how they got somebody. But, you know, for the first time ever, Duke has never beaten Florida State, and they didn't this year.
Right.
And probably because Riley Leonard was hurt in the game and like limping around and then went out. But even him limping around in the game, they were winning until he did.
Yeah.
He actually had people thinking like Duke can beat FSU.
Right.
And at FSU's lowest point, they'd be like, well, at least Duke's on the schedule.
Sure, yeah.
So like he flipped that.
Yeah.
I think bringing that to Texas A&M, a school that's not at all a basketball school, as much as Buzz Williams would love it to be.
Sure, yeah.
But yeah, that is what they need. And it's also not like, again, hiring the coach from Duke isn't a sexy thing. It's not Brian Kelly at LSU. It's not Lincoln Riley at USC. It's not Jimbo Fisher like it was the last time. It is a sensible, like sometimes the best thing to do, even though there's less risk involved to it, is the very sensible thing.
Yeah, I mean that's the first step in the right direction for them. Just a sensible, be sound.
Yeah.
Be solid.
Yes.
You know, and that's
eat your vegetables, brush your teeth. Like
yeah.
Those are decisions that don't really pay off in the short term.
No, they don't. They're everyday mundane things.
Yes.
And hire a coach. Like you said, don't try to make a big giant splash. Don't try to win the headlines, and then go get ready to play football because he does have his work cut out for him. It is a 2-tiered conference, and you got Texas and OU coming, and I mean, recent history would tell you Texas is going to be in your upper tier successfully. There's no guarantee that tiers are going to change. It could still be Bama and Georgia in 4 years.
Yeah.
But they got their work cut out for him. But so far, to me, this is a step in the right direction for A&M.
It is. And the thing is that they had to realize they had a decade to jump out on Texas and really be good in the SEC. They had a decade to get that lead, and they squandered every single second of it.
Yeah, they did.
They squandered every single second of it because Texas this was always probably going to happen, right? They didn't know that 10 years ago, but to really put Texas in the dirt They had 10 years to do it and didn't. And now Texas is coming in probably as the Big 12 champs.
Yes.
Like probably as the Big 12 champs in a New Year's Six game, and you're coming in with a new coach, and like they're coming in as you get a new coach to react to Texas, as opposed to Texas having to react to you, which 2 years ago, that's what it felt like. Texas was actually reacting to A&M. Like, you know, it's probably not a shock that one of the factors in Texas finally going to the SEC or, you know, acquiescing on all these things that they were doing was that Jimbo Fisher got the #1 recruiting class.
Yeah.
So, like, he had that. Now, granted, that flamed out, like, that was, like, faster than the Dexy's Midnight Runners and Come on Eileen, like, just one-hit wonder gone. But you didn't know that at the time. Like, if you're Texas and you're looking over, like, oh, our recruiting class is 11th and A&M's is 1st. Oh, it's finally hit. You know, those are factors that go into these things. Juan M. sent us a super chat. We're going to get to that after the break about Houston and Dana Holgerson, who is now gone. This is the Triple Option on 365 Sports.
If your business is like most, you need things done quickly. But if you're still tying your critical applications together on multiple shared public networks, you've probably been feeling the slowdown. And that's no good for business. A private UPN fiber network can get you and your business moving at the speed of light. Whatever you need, we can build it. Internet, Metro Ethernet, Waves, dark fiber. We deliver custom private networks and are focused on business customers only. Our next generation 100% fiber optic infrastructure offers you low latency and ultra scalable bandwidth with speeds up to 100 gigabit to run your critical applications. Your connection won't be limiting your performance anymore. It's diverse and scalable, so it can grow and change as your business grows and changes. And with a secure carrier-grade private network, you'll have all the reliability you need. Contact UPN today to learn more. Fast just got faster.
This is 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com. Welcome to the Triple Option. Here's your host, Paul Catalina.
In the last segment of the show, we're going to get into the real issues of the day, which is Chris's dessert championship, of which I need to send these pictures to Garrett so that we can show every year the Allman family.
You want me to text them to him, or does it need to be emailed?
I'm just gonna email them to him right here. But they have a dessert championship.
Yes, we have a competition where we team up with a family member, and there are rules, and you make a dessert, and you vote. And this year we had controversy.
Yeah.
So we can discuss that.
Yeah. All right.
The
Garrett,
news of the day.
Yeah. Garrett, we'll talk about this in the break and let me know if I've got to convert them at all, but I think I did already. But we'll start off with Houston, a job that is open, like Indiana is open.
Yeah.
But Houston, and that was my top 5 today, by the way. Juan, thanks for the $4.99 super chat, but Houston is open, and I think that the chaotic nature of the last 4 years is why it is. We have Chris Pesman on our show all the time, and I don't think he liked the fit of Dana Holgerson to Houston. Mm-hmm. The problem is it's just been kind of chaotic there and up and down for the last few years.
When you say chaotic, what do you mean?
They're bad, they're good, they're bad, they're good, they're bad, they're good. You know, it's just and Dana, I don't think honestly wants to. I don't think he likes the way things. It would not surprise me to see Dana Holgerson be a position coach or a coordinator in the NFL in a year.
Oh wow, okay,
yeah. Sit on your big buyout for a little while, and then if you get the coaching itch, go to the NFL where somebody else takes care of the free agency, not you.
Yeah.
You just get up in the morning and your general manager goes, hey, by the way, you needed 2 wide receivers. I went and got them for you.
Okay.
You know, that kind of a thing. Here are the 2 that you wanted. Go ahead. That kind of a deal.
Interesting.
It wouldn't surprise me to see him do that because in the NFL, it's just coaching. Like, really, like that's
you don't have to jack with the other stuff.
Yeah, it's just coaching. And so there's a lot of college coaches that like go there and they think like, yeah, I'm going to be the NFL quarterback coach for a couple of years and I'll have that and I'll be able to go back and recruit. And then like, recruiting sucks. I don't have to talk to high school football players unless it's for like the Boys and Girls Club. Like, yeah, great.
Yeah, I actually don't know why anyone would want to coach in college.
It's hard.
I think.
I mean, like you really have to love it.
Sure.
Because and the way that recruiting it, like at least in free agency in the NFL, you have nothing to do with it other than like your input or when if the Texans are going to bring in a big free agent, then DeMeco Ryans is going to meet with them and talk to them and see if there's a rapport for a working relationship.
Right.
And he'll give his input of like, yes, I want this guy.
Yeah.
And, the draft, yes, I like this guy. Here's who I like. I feel he fits our system. But ultimately, and Houston is Nick Caserio that will say, all right, this is the guy we're taking. Here's how much money we're going to give him. This is where it goes. And the head coach doesn't have anything to do with that. The position coaches, the coordinators don't have anything to do with it. As we're in college, like not only like the head coach has everything to do with it, like it's 50% of the job. Like 50% of it is coaching football, and 50% of it is getting the players to coach football and going to places that you never thought you would go to get them. Like it like always blew my mind. I'm doing midway games, and when they had like these guys like Khalil Houghton or Tanner Mordecai or Will Nixon, who's at Washington right now, and like you look on the side and like, oh hey, look, there's Brett Bielema.
Yeah.
Just there on the sideline watching the game.
No big deal.
So
at U of H, is there a excuse me? Does Houston try to make the splashy hire? No. Do they try to get relative?
Yeah, no, here's the thing.
Does Jeff Traylor have any interest in Houston?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
And that's not splashy.
That would be a splashy
around
job.
These parts, that's a big. That's a splashy.
And
hire.
that's great for Houston. Look, those two schools have played each other and split the last 2 years, right? They beat them, and then
they split. And Houston got them this year on that weird.
Yeah,
last
Houston
play.
got them.
I think Houston beat them twice. I think.
Okay.
I'll
close both
did.
times. Overtime 2 years ago, right? Last year was overtime. So
we'll figure it out.
You'll figure it out.
I think it was triple overtime the year before, and then Houston got them on that last play this year.
Yeah, the fourth down that was.
Jeff Traylor was mad.
Yeah, Traylor was really mad about it. Dana was jumping up and down on the field. I think it's a Big 12 job, which means more money, which means better recruits, which means more access to NIL. Houston is ready to. They've got their foot on the floor, right? They're pedal to the floor on things, trying to make themselves a relevant Power 5 team. So I think Jeff Traylor's in the water. I think that would be I think that's the best hire they could make. I think Willie Fritz at Tulane is something they need to call. I think that Barry Odom. So not to give away 3 of my top 5 this afternoon, but.
What? Okay. Oh, yeah. I don't want to.
But like, there's guys, that make sense for them.
So let me ask you this about. I'm asking you because you have your finger in.
I'll tell you, Gerard Johnson, former A&M quarterback, that's the offensive coordinator for the Texans right now, or quarterback coach.
I don't want anybody stealing anyone from the Texans.
But yeah,
right now.
I mean, Gerard Johnson he's always wanted to be a college head coach. So I don't know if he starts out at Houston or if if UTSA calls him and says like, hey, Jeff Traylor just left.
So for a guy like, so for Traylor, who's the hot name around here, I don't know nationally. I mean, he's obviously well respected.
Well, and I think that's the thing about Jeff Traylor. I think that's why Jeff Traylor his name didn't check in a big enough box nationally.
For Texas A&M?
Yeah, because he would own the recruiting in Texas as much as anybody could.
Yeah.
Right? He would do really well with that. I think the questions were like, well, A&M is in the SEC, so you can't look at it. If you want to, teams that win national championships recruit nationally, which is what R.C. Slocum didn't do very well.
Yeah.
He did very well in Texas, but he was also of the mindset, I don't have to leave. Well, no.
Yeah.
Like, the way you get over the top, like, and I would just point out to the coaches who were winning national championships at that time, particularly Bobby Bowden, Steve Spurrier, and Tom Osborne, Dennis Erickson. If you looked at those, like Miami, Florida State, Nebraska, Florida, most of their roster was from their home state.
Sure, yeah.
But what they would do is like, oh, this son of a gun's pretty damn good.
Yeah.
I'm going to go get him. I don't care where he is.
Yeah.
And particularly would come into Texas and take guys, Michael Barrow, Jesse Armstead, like those guys are Texans that went to Miami.
Yeah.
look, Nebraska's national championship is littered with people from the Lone Star states,
Yeah.
So, I think that.
So here's my question. So for a guy like Traylor, for a guy like Willie Fritz, who I don't know if Steven has ever said this on your show, but Steven says that Willie Fritz is like the Wilco of coaches. Like people that don't know music to try to sound smart will be like, oh man, you hear that new Wilco album?
Yeah.
Like when you ask someone, who's a really underrated coach, people just go, Willie Fritz? Like, they don't know anything about him.
Yeah.
Do they wait? Do they survey things and say, well, this one may be open next year. Let me bide my time here because I really want that job. For example, had Baylor been open, would Jeff Traylor, would they have been in hot pursuit? Would Traylor have wanted to come here
Yes.
instead of Houston?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. So does he say, maybe I bide my time. I see how Coach Aranda does for one more year. I don't know how coaches think.
Well, here's the other thing is that then you're making a determination of which is a better job long term. Baylor, who's been in the Power 5, or Houston, who's new to the Power 5, but maybe does not have some of the shackles of a Baylor.
Sure.
That's
a good way to put it.
Yeah, I mean, there are things that you're just like, so I don't think you wait around, especially if you get a Power 5 job.
Okay.
Like, they can all if they wanted him next year, they can always go and ask him.
Because that can go wrong.
Yeah.
And this is no disrespect to Matt Campbell, but 5-6 years ago, Matt Campbell could have had his pick of a lot of jobs.
Yeah.
Significantly less in demand now.
Yeah.
So you're right. I guess that's a good point. I just didn't know if they kind of sat back and said, well, there's the one I want.
Yeah.
Let me give it one more year.
I think you like the one you want, like this is probably always in today's college football going to come open again.
Yeah.
Look, if you've always wanted the LSU job and Brian Kelly's there now,
Just wait.
Just wait. Like it depends on how long you want to wait.
Garrett's going to get Brian
not
Kelly
every
fired.
not everybody's going to be Nick Saban and coach. I mean, he's 17 years at Alabama now, and everybody's
Well, that's wild to think about. I feel like he's been there 5 years.
Yeah, but everybody's going to wait out for the end of it. But it could be 27. So you shouldn't probably hang your hat on this is the dream job I want. What's the best job for you at the time is what you need to do. And for me, like UTSA, he's done a great job there and proven that you can win and that they have the wherewithal to win at their conference level at UTSA. But you're only going to be at a certain spot. Houston is a step forward into it, and so I think that, and part of the other thing was probably with Jeff Traylor was, well, he's just been the head coach at UTSA, which I think is a terrible thing because if you look at some of the best coaches in the country right now, like Chris Kleiman and Kalen DeBoer and
Lance Leipold,
they were all at really small places just a couple years ago, and they didn't get unstupid by getting like they didn't walk into, they weren't hayseeds that walked in man, y'all got cable TV and everything in this place.
They didn't get unstupid.
Yeah, they didn't just they weren't just bumpkins that rolled in off the truck or golly damn. You got 10 showers at one time?
I am 45 years old, and I've never heard someone say, golly damn. I've never heard that in my life.
Yeah, you don't run in the rusticated circles that I do, apparently.
I sure don't. Whew, we don't use that in middle-class America.
Yeah.
Okay.
Lord love a duck. Look at that car. But
golly damn.
Yeah, I could.
What about Cliff Kingsbury?
Cliff Kingsbury is an interesting name for any job to me.
Okay.
In that he was not a successful college coach.
No.
He wasn't. He was not a successful NFL head coach. But he is a really good offensive mind that you think one day is going to, he's learned enough of it to where he's probably going to maybe figure it out. But the knock that he has is that you had Patrick Mahomes and you won 5 games.
Yeah, that's not helping.
Patrick Mahomes is out throwing for 700 yards in a game that you lost. And, you can't, that's the thing that would, if I'm the AD interviewing him, if I'm Chris Pesman and Cliff Kingsbury wants this job, he'd be like, look, I know that you can rack up points.
Yeah.
That's proven everywhere you've been. Points. What I want to know is, your quarterback is one of the best football players who has ever walked the face of this earth. You won 5 games with him because you could not figure out a defense to get a team to score less than 40. That to me is troubling.
Yeah, sounds like
That is troubling. So what do you not know about defense? Or what are you leaving out that you've now figured out?
What is the difference between Lincoln Riley and Cliff Kingsbury?
Nothing.
Okay. I didn't think so. But you said can't get a defense to score less than 40.
Well, Lincoln Riley's probably a little bit better coach because like he won here at Oklahoma, but he's a little bit better, but there's not much.
There's not much at all.
There's not much. Like it's one of those deals where Lincoln's probably a little bit better. He's a little bit more aware of that, but like Cliff.
Kingsbury to me is a more sufferable Lane Kiffin. Like, good coach.
Yeah.
Has gotten some shots that you're kind of like, well, I don't know about like the Arizona job clearly, or like when Kiffin got the Raiders job.
Yeah.
You're like, well, I don't know. But Kingsbury's not as insufferable to me as
No,
Kiffin
I mean,
is. Seems like a cool dude.
But
I like Lane Kiffin. You don't like Lane Kiffin?
No, I mean, I don't know him personally. I think he's a beating.
I think he's hilarious. I just wouldn't want him to be my coach.
Yeah, I just think he's a bit. Like, I think he just does bits.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, he's a good coach, but
yeah.
he's just kind of a bit to me.
Just there.
Yeah. All right, we'll take a break right here. We got to come back.
Sorry, Garrett. God.
Yeah, we know. No, we need to get to the bigger issues of the day. This is how did Thanksgiving go?
Building this up.
Yeah, and no, I think this is a tradition. I want this to spread across.
Okay.
If I spent my Thanksgiving with family and not just with my wife
At the Gaylord.
we would do this.
He can tell us about the Gaylord, and I'll tell you about a failed attempt to make LeBron James out of a cake.
All right. Oh, that one was yours.
Not me.
Okay. All right. We'll be right back after this.
If your business is like most, you need things done quickly. But if you're still tying your critical applications together on multiple shared public networks, you've probably been feeling the slowdown. And that's no good for business. A private UPN fiber network can get you and your business moving at the speed of light. Whatever you need, we can build it. Internet, Metro Ethernet, Waves, dark fiber. We deliver custom private networks and are focused on business customers only. Our next generation 100% fiber optic infrastructure offers you low latency and ultra scalable bandwidth with speeds up to 100 gigabit to run your critical applications. Your connection won't be limiting your performance anymore. It's diverse and scalable, so it can grow and change as your business grows and changes. And with a secure carrier-grade private network, you'll have all the reliability you need. Contact UPN today to learn more. Fast just got faster.
This is 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com. Welcome to the Triple Option. Here's your host, Paul Catalina.
Alongside Chris Allman, the Monday Maniac. I'm going to make it stick.
Yeah.
We'll get merch for this show one day, and you'll get a cut.
I know a T-shirt guy.
Yeah. Yeah. So
Monday Maniac.
yeah. So, Chris, we just got off of Thanksgiving weekend.
Yeah.
I went to the Gaylord for 3 days.
Was it okay? Or was it overrun with families that just had parents that were beaten down beyond
It was okay. It was okay. I mean, like there's a lot of people,
Yeah.
We had a nice little stroll through ice. We did get a family in front of us that brought a tripod to take pictures with. So I was starting to get a little frustrated with them towards the end because I was even with a coat on and everything, I was like, man, I'm starting to get cold.
A full-on photo setup on the ice?
And then here's the thing. Wouldn't have been so bad if one of the people in the family wasn't a toddler. So you can bring your little setup and he had it ready to go and all that and knew how to work his iPhone really well. So he was well versed in all that. But the factor you can't take in for is the fact that you're taking a picture in front of the ice sculpture of Whoville, and maybe the toddler is not going to look at the camera. He's going to be like, "Oh my God, look at the Grinch's dog."
When your Thanksgiving plans hinge on a toddler.
Yeah, I mean,
Bad decision, coach.
Yeah. So anyway, but it was fun. It was great. We enjoyed. Listen, I'm going to make a plug here for the Gaylord Texan. We spent 3 Thanksgivings in a row there.
Okay.
It was fantastic.
Okay.
And I would love it if they would have me back on their dime. But
Do you
I will
dine?
influence the crap out of that.
I know there's various restaurants there.
We
at the
do
Gaylord.
Thanksgiving dinner we did Zeppeli, which is the Italian restaurant there, and they had like a buffet. It was very good.
Okay,
So,
excellent.
yeah,
Good to
we
know.
did the Mexican restaurant last year. So
Okay.
I don't know what we'll do in 2024. I have no idea. There's still plenty of planning to do, but my wife loves Christmas. It is decorated up for Christmas, and at night when the sun goes down, it gets, you can see the lights. They do a light show like every 45 minutes or so, or, once or twice an hour. And,
Okay. So you had an objectively great little Thanksgiving.
Yeah, it was great. It was
Yeah,
nice.
yeah.
It was nice. I saw my aunt and uncle up in Dallas, and Mom and Amanda and I went to the Baylor Club on Sunday when we got back. So it was fine. It was fine.
This guy.
It was fine.
Most opulent Thanksgiving I've ever heard.
It was great. I didn't,
I feel like we need an orchestra playing behind you as you describe your Thanksgiving plans.
It was lovely. I credit Amanda because if it was not for her, I would have done zero of those things.
The Cowboys game.
Just at the Cowboys game. Like, thanks for the prime rib, Jerry. Enjoyed it. Yeah. I drove 3 hours round trip for this Thanksgiving meal. So,
would you like for me to give you a recap of my Thanksgiving?
Yes. Okay. So, Chris, describe the dessert competition.
Okay. I'm going to do 60 seconds on how this originated. My brother is retired military. During a deployment to Germany in 2017, he was not with us on Thanksgiving, and we decided, and my father was also not with us because he was at the UMHB National Championship game, which still is weird to me that he's been to those and I haven't. But so we decided with my young nephews to have a dessert challenge. We paired up an adult and a nephew, and we were given $10. You go to the grocery store. You have 20 minutes to shop ingredients, pay.
So it's like supermarket sweep.
Yes. And we come back, we make the dessert, and we present to a panel of 3 judges.
Yes.
Who then judge on creativity, taste, presentation, and then budget is factored in there. So if you came in lowest under budget, then you get the superior score for budget.
Yeah.
So last year we tried to shake it up a little bit and we let everyone vote instead of a panel of judges. This year we decided to combine the old way of dessert making with the new way of voting and let everyone vote. And so, do you have those pictures?
Yes.
Okay.
So, which one do you want to start with?
Anyone except the winner.
Who was the winner?
The winner is the one we were laughing about during the break.
Okay, gotcha.
Okay.
So we'll start with
Okay.
this.
So this right here.
Is this yours?
This is mine. This is me and my sister Ashley and my nephew Clark. Those are angel turds. So instead of deviled eggs, we made strawberries, put cream in them, shaved some stuff. Really, really good. We got second place for that.
That's really creative idea.
It was. All credit to my sister and my nephew Clark. I just cut the strawberries. All right. Do you have the next one, Garrett? Okay. These are twists. This is my mom. This is my nephew Parker and my dad. My nephew Parker and my dad get last place every single year. They literally think there's a conspiracy theory against them.
Yeah.
They
came in last again?
Yes. It's like cinnamon rolls that have been flavored with some different fruit, twisted up. Presentation's not that good. Tasted pretty good. They got fourth place again.
Okay.
Go to the next one, Garrett. Okay, this is Paw Paw's Winter Wonderland. This is my brother Jason, my nephew Banner, and my wife Carrie, who's a professional artist. They literally took marshmallows, pretzels. They made a Winter Wonderland. They got third place.
How was the taste on this one?
It was okay. If you like marshmallows, it was good because you can see that little hill over there, the snow-capped mountains. Is all marshmallows. Yeah. Now I'd like to show you the winner of the dessert challenge.
Oh, dear.
Okay.
Oh, my.
If we gave people 150 guesses, 148 people would tell you that's Black Jesus, is what they would probably tell you. What that is supposed to be is a cake of LeBron James titled The Chosen One. My nephew, West Allman, loves LeBron James. He was with my daughter, Lane, who's 8, and his mom, Lanessa, who apparently there's just no rules to her. That's what they made.
What is it made out of?
It's made out of maybe just cake, and then it's like Nutella and chocolate and Reese's cups. So it tasted amazing.
Yeah.
Right? So they got first on taste, but they got last on budget, and then they obviously got last on presentation and creativity.
Well, if you have Nutella in this thing, that's going to eat up.
Yes.
It's like $4.
Yes. So each person is given $10. They spent like 9 something.
Okay.
So they had very little left over.
Okay.
So that one.
Do you have to present a receipt?
You have to present a receipt.
Okay.
Now, we did not do presentation this year. You did not present to the judges. You only got creativity. So they scored really, really well for trying to make a cake of LeBron James. It was a great idea. What we didn't do was factor in budget correctly. So they won. Like my nephew Wes, we've done this 7 years. My nephew Wes has won this thing 5 times. Oh, he is a juggernaut in this thing. When we went back and factored in budget correctly, they actually got last place. But now the dilemma is that my daughter, who's an 8-year-old little girl who already has the trophy on her dresser, no one's taking that away from her.
No.
Dude, this caused genuine tension for the rest of the night. The next morning on the family group thread, it was like my nephew Parker and my brother Jason were just going at each other. And all we were trying to do is just defend my poor little daughter, Lane. And so that was, I can't escape tainted victory no matter where I go, be it the 2017 World Series, be it a UMHB National Championship, or be it a dessert challenge, which is really just meant for us to be a fun thing that we do. I can't escape it. And my brother said in a group text the next morning, if Thanksgiving's not about making lifelong enemies, then what are we even doing here? So,
Well, look, congratulations on what should have been a win and a very strong second place finish.
Yeah. I
thought every category, because you get a lot of strawberries and spend $2.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
You know, and so then you need what was it, whipped cream, maybe some sprinkles.
Yeah, whipped cream, sprinkles. There was ingredients. My mom pulls everything out of her closet.
So there's ingredients available to you that
yes.
Okay.
And you're allowed just 2 things from the table. That could be sugar. It could be Reese's Cups. It could be graham crackers. There's a table where you can pull 2 things from.
See, then, like the recipe I sent you,
I know.
you would have had a thing.
I'm telling you, I'm on national television. I'm going to throw Ashley and Clark under the bus and say, I presented your dessert plan, and it got very little traction.
I've made it.
No, I have no doubt it's good.
I've made it. It's good.
I have no doubt it's good. And you and Amanda are cordially invited to Thanksgiving next year to help persuade people because I need a dub.
Well, she'll be good at that. She'll be good at that. So
it's so funny. Like my nephew Parker and my brother were just going at it. I mean, it was like, okay, maybe we shouldn't do this anymore. And then inevitably everyone just chills out. But it carried all the way over to the next morning. And my nephew Banner is actually the one that was like, hey, everyone, we kind of did this wrong. Yeah. And he pointed out the scoring there.
I do want to mention that you've mentioned your nephews Parker and Banner.
Yes. And West.
So I know Parker is Peter Parker.
Yes.
And Banner is Bruce Banner.
Yes.
Is West Wally West?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. You're the first person I think that's ever guessed that correctly.
Yeah.
Most people guess Adam West, who was Batman.
No. Adam West is a real guy who was Batman.
Yes.
No, that like the third Flash is Wally West.
Yes.
So,
but Barry Allen, Wally West.
It's actually. This is I shouldn't even.
I've got a brother who's enjoying this right now.
Okay, it's Jay Garrick,
okay,
Barry Allen, Wally West, and then there's other people,
okay,
that are in there. But those are the top 3.
Okay, and then my brother's youngest son is Clark, which obviously Clark Kent.
Yes,
so
yes,
all named after superheroes.
Yeah. Okay, and then this is all the same. Therefore,
this is all the same family spawn of my brother and Lanessa.
He convinced his wife,
yes,
that this was a good idea.
I don't know that he convinced her it was a good idea. I think he convinced her it was an idea.
Yeah.
And well, first of all,
they're good names. Here's the thing: they're good names.
They are. They're awesome.
You wouldn't know unless you had them all in the same room with a person like me who's like, wait a minute.
Yes.
You know,
the Banner throws people for a loop. I think people are like, that's an interesting name.
Yeah.
But my brother was 20 when he got married and 21 when his kids started being born. So he was a child.
Yeah.
So he started naming his kids after superheroes.
Yeah.
So it's a quirky little thing. We like it.
Yeah. I've thrown out that if we have a son, we name him Burt Reynolds. It hasn't landed.
All one word. Burt Reynolds, Catalina.
Yeah. I thought, what better way to honor a true American hero?
You watch New Girl?
Yes.
Remember when Winston and Allie had their kid and Allie was out of it, so Winston named him Dan Bill? You guys can have Burt Reynolds Catalina, all one word.
Exactly. That's what I'm going for. That's going to do it for us. Chris, great to see you. Sorry about the loss. Congratulations to your daughter, though.
Yeah.
So
no one tell my daughter she didn't win.
It's a big win. It's a win. It's a win. Controversy. Look, the Russians aren't giving back the gold medal.
No.
So
we don't. We celebrate tainted championships in this family.
Yeah, exactly.
So
you're an Astros
This is
fan.
like normal for us.
Yeah, you're good.
Yeah, we're good.
She would have had you on that.
Yeah.
Like if you had been like, hey, this is tainted. You're like, well, I see a lot of 2017 Astros
that's
memorabilia.
what my sister-in-law said.
Yeah.
My sister-in-law Lanessa said, basically, we're the 2017 Astros, and nobody in the family said anything else after that.
Yeah.
She nailed it.
Yeah.
That's who we are.
I just love your daughter just going like, Carlos Correa. You're like, all right, fine. You got me. 8-year-olds should know that much. All right, that's going to do it for us. Thanks to Garrett. Thanks to everybody on the big show this afternoon. We have a cavalcade of guests. Brandon Marcello of 24/7 Sports, Mike Craven from Dave Campbell's Texas Football, Andrew Monaco, voice of Texas A&M, Sam Kahn of The Athletic, and Phil Bennett. A lot of coaching carousel stuff going to be going on, including what's going on at Baylor with Dave Aranda-Stang, what's going on at Houston with Dana Holgerson, of course, A&M stuff. All that's coming up at 3 o'clock. This is the Triple Option on 365 Sports.
If your business is like most, you need things done quickly. But if you're still tying your critical applications together on multiple shared public networks, you've probably been feeling the slowdown. And that's no good for business. A private UPN